Yo, what up? It's Don Gordito. And I was going to do a reply to the whole video. Um, if you see, right, I'm sorry. Let me move this mouse. Don Gordito, Brazil, visa requirements response. But video is 40 minutes long. I figured if you guys want to watch it, I'll put the link to the video in the description box. And, you know, like I said, you guys can go ahead and watch it. However, there was something that was said by Big J um, that I would like to talk about just for a minute. I don't want to make this video too long. So I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to come back in and uh, read some articles and play some videos for you guys. All right.
The seriousness because the way you act like a man child. You think everything's is a joke. Um, they're getting tired of y'all. Whether it's you passport bros or you people out here who want to geomax, they're getting tired.
So geomaxing, I'm not too familiar with the term. I've heard of it before. I'm thinking that's when you move overseas and um, try to date women overseas or something like that. I think I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, I'm not. I might have to like watch some videos or read about geomaxing because I don't know too much about geomaxing. All right.
Tired of y'all. They already did this in Indonesia when they banned premarital sex because the people in Indonesia are tired of the Japanese, the Chinese, the South Koreans, and Americans and Westerners coming down to their country and having all these sexual adventures and it leaving all these women pregnant. Indonesians getting tired of it. And sooner or later, it's going to reach up to certain these countries.
All right. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I got my water with me, so let me just take a sip. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about what he was saying about how Indonesia passed a law banning premarital sex. And for those who don't know, Indonesia is a country in Southeast Asia and it's the largest Muslim populated country in the world. For those who didn't know. So let's go to the first article that I have here. It says Indonesia's parliament on Tuesday banned sex outside marriage with the punishment of up to 1 year in jail, despite worries the laws may scare away tourists from its shores and harm investment. Now, this is very important. What I'm about to read is very important. Lawmakers approved a new criminal code which will apply to Indonesians and foreigners alike and also prohibit cohabitation between unmarried couples. It will also ban insulting the president or state institutions, spreading views counter to the state ideology, and staging protests without notification. Let me highlight that. Okay? So this is bigger than just banning premarital sex. I want y'all to see this right here. So let's just say, I want to go to Bali and I want to go with my girlfriend. So not only, oh, and for those who don't know, this law is not implemented yet. I think it's going to be implemented in what year? Because it said 3 years, and they passed it on the 2022. So I want to say 2025. So this law might not be passed. Might not be. Let's go down. Let's scroll some more. Okay, see right here? It says the laws were passed with support from all political parties. However, the code would not come into effect for 3 years to allow for implementing regulations to be drafted. Okay? So this right here is scary. So it's like, I can't have sex with my girlfriend. I can't insult your president. I can't, express my criticisms about the state or country's ideology. And I can't stage a protest without notification, right? I mean, that's pretty scary. Um, let's see what other articles that I have. What other articles? I have this one here. Basically says the same thing. It's from the Guardian. Yeah, I don't even have to read this, but like I said, I'll leave the link in the description box. It says the same thing. And I have one from CNN. Let's see right here. Let's see. The new code, which applies to foreign residents and tourists, bans cohabitation before marriage, apostasy, and provides punishments for insulting the president or expressing views counter to the national ideology.
As Indonesia's parliament passes a controversial new criminal code, a couple of hundred meters outside the building, protesters have set up camp. The country's new criminal code ushers in a raft of laws, including banning insulting the president and expressing views that run counter to state ideology. But among the most contentious articles are those that criminalize sex outside of marriage, punishable by up to a year in jail.
So, do those look like foreigners to you, or do they look like local residents of Indonesia?
These protesters are arguing the new criminal code is a setback for democracy.
Fair use, fair use.
The government should focus on fulfilling people's civil rights, the economy and culture, such as job vacancies, healthcare, etc. They should have passed laws relating to that. Instead, they passed a law that was not democratic, controls our private lives, and does not take care of public matters. It is a setback for our country, which had fought for reform, and now we are moving backwards.
The laws, which include more lenient sentences for those charged with corruption, will not come into effect for 3 years to allow for implementing regulations to be drafted. But it has sparked concern that it may scare away tourists and harm investment in the.
But those articles still can be threats to democracy because they're actually against the Constitution, against the human rights. And at the end of the day, although maybe conduct is not um, um, punished in practice, but to have such a regulation, to have such a legal framework, will also create some kind of stigmatization and then also.
So, I didn't think of pulling up Indonesia's constitution. I probably should have done that too, but I didn't think about that. So she's saying that it's against the constitution. Um, I'm gonna check that out.
The feeling that we cannot freely criticize the government and psychologically affect the society.
The government had planned to revise the country's colonial-era criminal code in 2019, but nationwide protests halted its passage. The morality charges have also been partially watered down from an earlier version of the bill, so people can only be reported by limited parties, such as a parent or child. The new code will still apply.
So basically, you, you got to get snitched on by a parent or your kid. I think they said spouse too in another video. They said spouse. So basically, you got to get snitched on.
To Indonesians and foreigners alike.
Dia berarti pas di bawah situ tuh, kolong tuh, kolong sono.
Again, fair use, fair use. So I read a little bit about this protest, and they were saying that it wasn't so much about the premarital sex. It was about not being able to talk, will criticize the president and criticize the, nation's ideology. That's what they were really protesting about. They said like premarital sex was like, if it was like a rank, I think that'd probably be like the lowest of their worries.
Tourism officials in Bali are assuring travelers that they have no cause for worry after Indonesian parliament passed a bill that criminalizes premarital sex and cohabit 3 years' time, and anyone who breaks the law faces a jail term of at least 6 months or a fine. And for some analysis on the new bill, we're joined by Andreas Harsono, Indonesia researcher at Human Rights Watch. Thank you very much, Mr. Andreas, for joining me. So there's been some backlash to this criminal code, with some suggesting that it seems
Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia.
almost like an afterthought to have a task force to educate people on this. The question is, what's possibly the government's driving factor to pass this very controversial bill now?
The substance of this law is seeing sex outside of marriage as a crime. The substance is seeing living together or cohabitation as a crime. That is the substance. But there are safeguards. It means that either your parent or your child or your spouse, they are the one who have the right, the power to report you to the police. But
Yeah, you see? Yeah, so I was right. So it's your parent, your child, uh, he said spouse? Let me go back and see what he said.
who have the right, the power to report you to the police. But the substance is there, or your spouse. But there are safeguards. It means that either your parent or your child or your spouse, they are the one who have the right, the power to report you to the police. But the substance is there. Why it is happening? It is simply because of growing religious conservatism in Indonesia. Over the last 20 years, we are seeing more and more Sharia inspired regulation.
Goddamn conservatives. Goddamn conservatives, man, I tell you.
That discriminate women LGBT people as well as religious minorities in Indonesia.
So, this country's law and human rights minister has said that it's not easy for a multicultural and multi-ethnic country to make a criminal code that can accommodate all interests. So then, if saying that, how realistic is it for authorities to enforce such a law for a country of this magnitude?
I know the minister well, Yasona Lawli. I like to argue with him. Look, there is not many countries in the world that is not multicultural, that is not multi-ethnic. The key is not accommodating all of these ethnic groups. The key is to meet international human rights standard. And this criminal code fail to meet international human rights standard.
So, Mr. Andreas, you say you know the minister quite well. You've had
Did y'all hear that? You heard what he said?
conversations, I believe, on this topic. Then, is this more a political or is it a cultural or religious issue that we're talking about right now?
All of them. But the underlying issue is the growing conservatism in Indonesia. Yasona Lawli, of course, is not a conservative person. That's why he liked to complain how difficult it is. I told him, look, the key is to meet international standard. That's all. Look at the US, look at Singapore, look at Australia. They are all multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-whatever countries. And they are trying to meet international standard. Meanwhile, Indonesia does not. In fact, in terms of the blasphemy law is less and less countries that would like to enforce their own blasphemy law. In fact, many of them are scrapping the blasphemy law. Indonesia is the only country in the world now that expands the blasphemy law. Indonesia is the only country that introduced the apostasy law in this criminal code.
So did you just hear what he said? I mean, I don't even have to say anything. He articulated this so well. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I don't even have to say anything.
How worried are you about this change of conservatism here then?
Oh, it was a sad day. Really sad. My first reaction when the parliament passed this toxic law, I want to apologize. As someone who had been working on this law for almost 2 decades, I feel like I'm failing my children, children's, and maybe the future generation, all of them, not only my families, of course. So we are failing. Someone like me has failed, and we need to apologize. I'm not involved, of course. I'm trying to make the law to meet international standard, but still, I'm a part of Indonesia. And as a researcher, human rights researcher, author, I think I am involved in this failure.
There is this law now in Indonesia, but it's also rather confusing. Does this law actually apply to foreigners? Should travelers to Indonesia now worry? There are a lot of
All right, so I think this is the part that we all want to listen to.
foreigners to Bali.
This law applies to everyone, Singaporean, Australian, Indonesian, all nationalities, Bali, Jakarta. The thing is, this law cannot be broadly enforced. It is impossible to enforce this law broadly. There are millions of Indonesian couples who live together without legal marriage certificate, either because of their religion are not recognized, either bureaucratic reason, or either using customary mechanism to get married. The police or the authorities cannot arrest, let's say, 20, 30 million couples in Indonesia. But this law provides an avenue for extortion, for difficult families, parents having LGBT children and want their children to be quote unquote normal, and then use this mechanism to to revenge or to raise their anger against their own children. So this is the danger of this law. It is toxic. It won't be enforced broadly. But if you have problems, then there are mechanisms to bring this very private matter into the public domain.
Well, indeed, it's looking that case. But thank you very much, Mr. Andreas Harsono, for sharing your insights. And he's Indonesia researcher at Human Rights Watch.
All right. So that's about it. I hope I don't get I hope I don't get flagged because I ain't talk much throughout the video. But yeah, I mean, these are locals. These are not, passport bros. These are not foreigners. These are locals. So that's about it. You guys have a good night.